Hey everyone, welcome to our deep dive. And today we're tackling Enneagram compatibility, specifically type 3, the achiever, and type 5, the investigator. Can they really connect?
Yeah, it's a question we get a lot. These two types seem so different on the surface.
Right, one's all about outward success, the other's, deep in thought all the time.
Exactly. And yet there's this underlying synergy that often surprises people.
Okay, so where does this compatibility come from? I'm curious.
Well, think about their core traits for a second. Both type 3s and type 5s are incredibly resilient.
Resilient?
Yeah, type 3s, they bounce back from setbacks. They're always striving for that next win.
Okay, I see that.
And type 5s, even when they're deep in thought, analyzing everything, they have this detachment that helps them handle
So it's
stress.
like they both have this inner strength that allows them to navigate challenges without getting too bogged down.
Exactly. And that shared resilience, that's a
Oh.
powerful foundation for any relationship.
That makes sense. But I'm thinking, wouldn't a Type 3's need for external validation clash with a Type 5's more internal sense of accomplishment?
That's a great point, and it's definitely something to be mindful of. Imagine a type 3 gets a big promotion, they're excited, they want to celebrate.
Okay.
The type 5 might be genuinely happy for them, but they might express it in a more understated way.
Right. And the Type 3 used to, outward displays of affection and recognition, they might misinterpret that.
Exactly, and that's where you start to see some potential for friction.
That makes total sense. And it makes me wonder, how does their communication style, because they seem so different, how does that play out in everyday life?
Well, type 3s are very action-oriented.
Okay.
They communicate directly, assertively, looking to, solve problems quickly.
Though it's here's the problem, here's the solution, let's go.
Exactly. Whereas type 5s, they take their time, they analyze, they want to understand all the angles before offering a solution.
So you're saying a Type 3 might feel like the Type 5 is dragging their feet, and the Type 5 might feel like the Type 3 is rushing into things.
Precisely. And that difference in pace that can create tension if they're not careful.
So patience and empathy are key, but how do they actually bridge that gap? How do they make that work?
Well, one strategy is for the type 3 to really practice saying, hey, I know you need some time to process this. How about we revisit it tomorrow?
So it's about acknowledging the need for space, but still, moving things forward.
Exactly. And on the flip side, type 5s, they can practice expressing their needs more directly.
Like, I need a little bit of time to think this through before we, make a decision.
Right. Something like, I feel a bit overwhelmed when we try to solve things immediately. Can we circle back later?
Yeah, I love that because it's not about changing who they are. It's about adapting their communication to make it work.
Absolutely.
But how does this difference in pace affect their everyday life together? I
Mhm.
mean, Type 3s are always on the go. How does that work with the Type 5 who values, peace and quiet?
Right. So picture this. It's Sunday morning. The type 3 is full of energy, buzzing with ideas. Wants to talk about their latest project.
Okay.
The type 5 is content with their thoughts, maybe reading a book, enjoying the quiet
I
morning.
can see the clash already.
Right. So this is where compromise and understanding are really important.
So instead of just barging in with their ideas, the Type 3 could say, hey, I'd love to chat about this new project later. When's a good time for you?
Exactly. Giving the type 5 that sense of control over their time.
I see that. But what about conflict? How do they handle disagreements when their approaches to problem solving are so different?
Well, remember, type 3s are solution oriented.
Right. They want to fix it and move on.
Exactly. Whereas type 5s might need some time to process their feelings, to really analyze the situation from all angles.
So the Type 3 might feel like the Type 5 is avoiding the issue, and the Type 5 might feel pressured to react before they're ready.
That's exactly the kind of disconnect that can happen. And that's where communication becomes so important. The type 3 needs to understand that giving the type 5 space isn't avoidance, it's how they process things.
And the Type 5 needs to be clear about needing that time and reassure the Type 3 that it's not about dismissing the problem.
Right. It's about finding that middle ground. Maybe they agree on a specific time to revisit the conversation when both feel ready.
That makes a lot of sense. It shows commitment to the relationship even when they approach things differently.
Yeah.
But, shifting gears a bit, what about the positive side? What strengths does this pairing bring to the table?
Well, we've talked about resilience, right? That shared ability to bounce back, but they're also incredibly goal-oriented, both of them.
I see that the Type 3 is obviously driven, but the Type 5, in their own way, they're also striving for mastery in whatever they're passionate about.
Exactly. So even though their motivations might be different, that shared focus on growth, it creates a really strong synergy.
I love that they can support each other's journeys, even if those journeys look different. But wouldn't a type three's need for external validation clash with the type five's more internal sense of fulfillment? I could see that creating some tension, like in day-to-day life.
Oh, absolutely. Imagine the type three, they get this award at work, they're super excited, and they expect their partner to be just as thrilled.
Okay, yeah.
The type five might genuinely be proud, but they express it in a more low-key way, a quiet, well done, maybe.
And the type three might feel a little deflated, like their partner isn't as excited as they are.
Right, and that's where communication is key. Again, the type 3 can explain their need for celebration, and the type 5 can make an effort to express their appreciation in a way that resonates with the type 3.
So it's about finding that balance, right?
Right.
Meeting each other halfway without one person always having to adapt.
Exactly. And you know what's interesting? Despite these potential hurdles, their differences can actually create a spark, especially romantically.
Oh, tell me more about that.
hmm
How do these contrasting personalities create that romantic tension?
Well, think about it. The type 3, with all their charisma and confidence, they're drawn to the type 5's mysterious aura and intelligence.
So it's that classic opposites attract kind of thing.
In a way, yeah, the type 3 sees a challenge, someone to figure out, and the type 5, they're intrigued by the type 3's energy and social grace.
But wouldn't that initial spark fade as they face the, realities of a long-term relationship? How do they make it last?
That's where their shared values come in. Both type 3s and type 5s are driven by growth. The type 3 wants to achieve, expand their influence, and the type 5 is constantly seeking knowledge and mastery.
So even though their expressions are different, that shared commitment to personal development, it becomes a really strong bond.
Exactly. They can inspire and challenge each other to become the best versions of themselves.
I love that they're both partners and growth catalysts. But let's be real, relationships are messy. What are some pitfalls they might encounter, and how can they navigate those?
Well, one big one is their approach to social interaction. Type 3s love being around people, networking, showcasing their achievements.
Right, they're the life of the party.
Exactly. Whereas type 5s, they need their solitude. Too much socializing can be draining.
So the type 3 might feel like their partner's being antisocial, and the type 5 might feel pressured to attend events that they'd rather skip.
Right, so finding that balance is key. Maybe they agree on a certain number of social events per month, or they find ways to incorporate the type 5's interests into those events.
Instead of a wild party, maybe it's a museum visit or a small gathering with close friends.
Exactly. It's about being creative and finding solutions that work for both of them.
Okay, that makes sense. But let's talk about emotions. How do their different emotional expressions affect their ability to connect on a deeper level?
Well, type 3s, with their focus on outward achievement, they might struggle to express vulnerability. They might fear that showing weakness will damage their image.
I can see that.
Type 5s, on the other hand, while they have deep feelings, they tend to intellectualize them, analyze them, instead of expressing them openly.
So the type 3 might feel like their partner is distant, and the type 5 might feel overwhelmed by the expectation to be more emotionally expressive.
Exactly. It's like they're speaking different emotional languages.
So how do they bridge that gap, especially when it comes to resolving conflicts? Because that's when emotions run high.
It takes conscious effort. Type 3s need to realize that the type 5's withdrawal isn't personal. It's just their way of processing things.
And instead of pushing for immediate resolution, they can give the type 5 space to think things through.
Right, and the type 5 can work on articulating their feelings more directly, so the type 3 understands what's going on internally.
So it's about meeting each other halfway, creating a safe space where both feel heard and understood, even if their expressions are different.
Absolutely. It's about building that emotional bridge between their two worlds.
This has been so insightful. I'm already seeing this pairing in a whole new light, but, we've talked a lot about romantic relationships. What about friendships? How does this dynamic play out platonically?
It's interesting because a lot of the same principles apply, that shared resilience that drive for growth. It creates a strong foundation for friendship, too.
So the type 3 might be drawn to the type 5's wisdom, and the type 5 might be fascinated by the type 3's energy and ability to get things done.
Exactly. They can balance each other out. The type 3 might push the type 5 out of their comfort zone, and the type 5 can offer the type 3 a different perspective, a more introspective viewpoint.
I can see that. But wouldn't their social needs clash? I mean, type 3s love being around people, and type 5s need their alone time.
For sure, that's a potential challenge. Imagine the type 3 plans a big weekend getaway with a bunch of friends.
Right. The type 5 might be dreading that.
Exactly. So, again, it comes down to communication and compromise. Maybe the type 3 can understand that the type 5 needs some downtime and plan some one-on-one time, too.
And the type 5 can make an effort to participate in some of the group activities, even if it's not their ideal way to spend a weekend.
Right. It's about finding that balance between shared experiences and individual needs.
But what about supporting each other's growth? How do they help each other evolve as friends?
Well, the type 3 can be a great motivator for the type 5, encouraging them to put their knowledge into action, maybe write a book or start a business.
And the type 5 can help the type 3 slow down and reflect a little bit, prioritize self-care amidst all that striving.
Exactly. They can really learn from each other, but of course there will be challenges too, especially when it comes to their different definitions of success.
Because the type 3 might see success as external achievements, while the type 5 might find fulfillment in mastering a skill or gaining knowledge, even if there's no outward recognition for it.
Absolutely. And that's okay. The key is to acknowledge and appreciate each other's definitions of success.
So the type 3 can learn to see the value in the type 5's intellectual pursuits. And the type 5 can understand that the type 3's need for recognition is part of who they are.
It's about celebrating each other's wins, no matter how big or small, and recognizing that success comes in many forms.
Okay, but let's shift to the workplace. How do type 3s and type 5s work together professionally?
It can be an incredibly productive dynamic. It's like a perfect pairing of action and intellect.
I see that the type 3 is out there leading the charge, and the type 5 is behind the scenes, providing the strategy and insights.
Exactly. They complement each other so well, but of course their communication styles can create challenges, especially in a fast-paced environment.
Because the type 3 might want things done quickly and efficiently, while the type 5 needs time to process and analyze.
Right, so it's important for the type 3 to give the type 5 clear instructions and time to think things through, and for the type 5 to communicate their needs clearly.
So maybe the type 3 can say something like, I need this done by tomorrow, but take your time and let me know if you have any questions.
And the type 5 can say, I work best when I have a clear understanding of the task. Can you give me a quick overview and I'll get started?
I love that because it sets clear expectations and avoids misunderstandings.
Exactly. And when it comes to decision making, it's about finding that balance too. The type 3 can learn to value the type 5's careful analysis.
And the type 5 can practice being more decisive when needed.
Right. It's about leveraging their strengths and recognizing that they each bring something valuable to the table.
This has been so insightful, and I think it's important to remember that these are just general tendencies, right? Every individual is unique, and there's always going to be nuances within each type.
Absolutely. The Enneagram is a framework. It's a starting point for understanding ourselves and others better.
It's about recognizing patterns and using that knowledge to improve our relationships, both personal and professional.
And it's about appreciating the beauty of diversity, how our differences can actually make us stronger when we approach them with curiosity and empathy.
I love that. And, for our listeners who are eager to explore this dynamic further, Personality NFT offers a wealth of resources to guide you.
Their AI-powered apps, insightful tests, and the Hub, a vibrant community of like-minded individuals, can provide the tools and support you need to deepen your understanding of yourself and those around you.
So dive in, explore, and unlock the secrets of the Enneagram. You might be surprised by the depth and richness that awaits you, not just in understanding type 3s and type 5s, but in unraveling the complexities of human connection itself. And that's what makes the Enneagram so fascinating. It's not about putting people in boxes. It's about understanding those core motivations and how they play out in our relationship.
Exactly, and it's a journey, The more we learn about ourselves and the people in our lives, the more fulfilling those connections can be.
Absolutely. But as we wrap up our deep dive, I want to bring it back to our listeners.
Yeah.
What are the key takeaways? For anyone who's a type 3, a type 5, or just interested in this dynamic, what can they take away from this conversation?
Well, if you're a type 3, remember that type 5s, they need their intellectual space. They process emotions differently. Don't mistake their quiet nature for disinterest.
Yeah, give them time to think things through.
Exactly, and engage with their ideas. Really listen to what they have to say because their insights can be incredibly valuable.
I love that. And for type 5s, remember to show appreciation for the type 3's energy and celebrate their achievements.
Right, because that recognition means a lot to them.
Yeah.
And step out of your comfort zone sometimes, join them in activities that they enjoy.
It's about showing up for each other in ways that matter.
And for both types, communication is key. Be honest about your needs, Listen to your partner's perspective and find compromises that work for both of you.
It's about creating a relationship that honors both your individuality and your connection.
Exactly. And when you can do that, the type 3 and type 5 dynamic can be incredibly rewarding, both personally and professionally.
Absolutely. Well, this has been an amazing conversation. I
Mhm.
feel like I've learned so much about these two types and how they can truly thrive together.
Me too. It's always fascinating to see how seemingly different personalities can complement each other in such powerful ways.
And for our listeners who want to delve deeper into this dynamic or explore other Enneagram pairings, don't forget to check out Personality NFT.
Their AI-powered apps and insightful tests can provide you with a personalized roadmap for self-discovery and understanding.
You can find all that and more at personalitynft.com. So go explore, unlock your potential, and connect with others on a deeper level.
And remember, the Enneagram is a tool. It's a starting point for a lifetime of growth and connection.
It's about understanding ourselves and others better so we can create more meaningful and fulfilling relationships.
And who knows, maybe you'll discover a surprising compatibility that you never expected.
That's the beauty of the Enneagram. It's always full of surprises. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.